Hey, welcome to the Steel Lodge. Today we're checking out Xemu or Xemu, which is an original Xbox emulator, and you can run it on the Steam Deck. It has a native Linux version, so we can just install it through EmuDeck and just run it from there. There's a little bit of setup we need to do, but I will walk you through how to do that. It's pretty straightforward, and we'll dive into a couple games to see how they run. Xemu has a website with a bunch of compatibility for games, and the ranking of them varies pretty significantly. So definitely check that out if you are considering trying to run some of these games on your Steam Deck. Let's jump into the setup. Navigate to where you store your games for EmuDeck, and then open it up and go to the BIOS folder. Here, drop in 2 files. These are listed on the Xemu website. The other stuff's actually set up already by EmuDeck for Xemu, so we don't need to do it. I'm not going to link these files, but if you look for them, you can find them. Other than that, you add your Xbox games to the Xbox folder in Emulation, just like you would for any other EmuDeck game. Then you go to the ROM manager and generate the games while Steam's closed, and then you can hop back into game mode and everything should be there. One thing I want to comment on before we get into this too much too is that some of these games are not getting the right art. For instance, I have Mech Assault 2 Lone Wolf, and it got the art for the first Mech Assault game. Obviously, this is Ninja Gaiden, like the NES one. I think that's what console it's on, but I have Ninja Gaiden Black, so this is not accurate at all. And then for Alien vs. Predator's Extinction there, when I ran, what is it? Like the generator for the apps here, nothing even popped up for the art, but it looks like it actually did get the art successfully here. Okay, so here we are with the first game we're checking out, and that is Halo Combat Evolved. This is a legendary game, and for me, it's one of the most nostalgic games I could imagine. I grew up playing this game a ton, and it is really what I would say got me into video games big time in the first place. Performance-wise, we're hitting around 60 FPS for the most part. I have all the threads pulled up here too, so we can look at all of them and see what the performance is like. But generally, we stay pretty solid here, and I think this would be a pretty enjoyable experience to play on the go, honestly. And this is one game that I really would love playing on the Steam Deck handheld. We're going around 60 FPS there, but it doesn't feel great. Definitely feel some slowdown. On the Xemu website, this game is rated as playable, I believe. And it is making it a little bit harder to play with all this random slowdown. Hopefully it's just effects for the first time when they're being rendered, caching or something like that, making it a little bit harder. And obviously the pistol, the Magnum, is broken in this game. Just the auto and the headshots do so much damage. They just one-shot people with their shields down, so that's great. But I really hope that they get Xemu, I'm going to call it that, better, in better shape for the Steam Deck, so we can run a lot of these classic games better. Because for me, the Xbox is actually the console that I have the most nostalgia for. Halo 1 and Halo 2 were really big parts of my childhood, and I played them so much growing up with friends and on my own, doing a lot of multiplayer and campaign. I probably beat these campaigns like 5 times each growing up. Graphics-wise, definitely pretty jaggy, but it looks pretty good overall, and you'll probably notice in this recording that there are black bars on the side of the screen. When I actually have this hooked up to just the Steam Deck screen itself, it isn't there, but when I have it on this external monitor, it is. But I will say, on the Steam Deck, it looked a little bit stretched. Here, it looks like it's not as stretched. So, you might be able to go into the settings with Xemu and mess around with that, graphics-wise, but I'm just going right fresh from the installation of EmuDeck here to here. And we're playing on Heroic, by the way, if you were curious. One thing is the black and white buttons on the original Xbox controller. The white button, I believe that was to turn on the flashlight, is mapped to the left bumper, and then I would assume the right bumper is the black button. And yeah, that is to swap grenades, so it looks like they're just mapped there. Now, there was a port of Halo Combat Evolved to the PC by Gearbox, I believe, a while ago, and obviously there's a Master Chief Collection. I haven't installed the Master Chief Collection on the Steam Deck, but I'm pretty sure I've heard the campaigns run on there, because playing these games handheld is a dream for me. But I really just wanted to see how this one performs. And while the graphics were getting 60 FPS there, you can probably tell from the video that it doesn't look like a smooth 60 FPS. It's pretty stuttery at some of those points there when we have a lot of combat going on and a lot of effects popping off. Also, one thing I wanted to show you guys here is that if I go ahead and lock our frame rate down to 30 FPS, look at this immense slowdown, because I was wondering if I could lock the game to 40 FPS and just roll with that. That'd be really optimal, I would say. But it looks like the emulator is having some slowdown. So if you go into the emulator settings, you might be able to mess around with it to actually get these frame rates to work better, because I'm pretty sure that it wants to run the game here at 60 FPS and anything else will slow it down. So we'll go turn this back up to off, because I'm pretty sure the VSync is just enabled through the emulator itself. Alright, now we have Halo 2 here, and I'm seeing some pretty aggressive stutter in this cutscene right here, locked to 15 FPS, but if we look at the stats, nothing looks like it's being pushed too hard, so this one might just have worse emulation. I'm going to go ahead and skip through some of these cutscenes just to see what the actual gameplay is like. Pretty unfortunate that that happens to the cutscene. For the Halo 1 game, I didn't really see that kind of problem happening for the cutscenes there. This one, though, it's probably a lot harder for the original Xbox to run, and therefore maybe it might be harder for the emulator to run too. I didn't look specifically at the compatibility pages for these games before hopping into here, besides just checking if they were playable or what their status was. And both Halo 1 and Halo 2 had the playable status, but you can see from this footage already that this is a lot jankier than Halo 1 is. Alright, now we're to the action. I just wanted to skip ahead so you guys wouldn't have to watch through any of the boring parts here. And obviously Halo 2 is just, in my opinion, a big step up from Halo 1. Halo 1 still has a lot of really iconic parts, such as like the more open areas. The second Halo level is one of the best Halo levels of all time. And right here I'm noticing some interesting graphical glitches that are happening, but sometimes you just gotta live with it. I can't remember. This doesn't seem like it's all glass from what my memory is. It's metal, but it's definitely becoming transparent as I walk over it here. So that seems like an issue. Definitely seems to be in worse shape than Halo 1 as far as the gameplay goes here on the Steam Deck. But yeah, gameplay-wise, I'd say Halo 2 is a big step up over Halo 1, and what this game does for the lore of the Halo story is massive. Halo 1 was a good setup, but this game really expands everything, you know, with Arbiter and just learning a lot more about the Covenant. Definitely pretty janky here, and I don't remember having anything set to turn off my overlay for my shields and stuff. I'm just playing on Heroic, so I don't know what exactly is going on there. But this one is pretty rough to play. Definitely worse. It's also, if you notice, I don't have a reticle for my guns, so I'm kind of just blind firing. We'll take the battle rifle here and see if we can nail some headshots without our reticle. Yeah, this one, like it says, it's reading about 60 FPS, but does not feel like that. It feels really inconsistent and not enjoyable. If you haven't played the remaster of this game, do so. It's amazing. The graphics are updated and look great still, and the cutscenes done by Blur are really nice. See if we can take out some elites here, but I want to probably get through this one because the performance here is pretty lackluster, and I would recommend, if you can, try to figure out how to get the Master Chief Collection set up on the Steam Deck instead if you want to play through the Halo 2 campaign on there. But definitely having no reticle is a pretty hard thing to get over for this game. Alright, this next one is another one that I played a lot during my childhood, and that's Mech Assault 2 Lone Wolf. Now, for this one, I saw on the compatibility side that it just says the intro plays, and that's it for the compatibility. So I'm assuming this is just going to crash and not work, but let's see what happens here. I don't know how popular this game actually was, but I really liked it. I was kind of into mechs growing up. I think a lot of kids were. And this game just let you pilot a bunch of different mechs, and it had pretty cool destructibility. I never played the first Mech Assault game, but this one was just a blast between all the different kind of mechs you could get in, and the campaign was pretty fun here. Okay, that's interesting. It kind of just booted me back into the intro there. Okay, so it looks like this might be a loop where we can't actually get into the game, because I'm gonna just spam the start button. And I'm spamming it right now, and now it looks like nothing's happening. Pressing it on my Steam Deck, but we got nothing. So I'm gonna take their word for the compatibility of this one and say that it's not gonna work here, unfortunately, but hopefully they can fix this one up, because I'd love to go back and play it on here and see how it runs. I don't even know if this one has compatibility on the Xbox Series X, where you could play it at a higher frame rate and revisit a classic like this. Alright, now we are looking at Morrowind, and this was actually my first introduction to the Elder Scrolls series. I was just going through Blockbuster one day, and the cover of this game kept striking me, so one day I decided to just go ahead and rent it. For any of you that remember Blockbuster, where you could go rent games, and it was great. Played a lot of games that I would never have played because of that place, but it is no longer. I think there's still things like Redbox where you can rent video games, though, but I never was really into Redbox. I was always a Blockbuster guy. But we can see how Morrowind is on here. I actually got a comment on my Morrowind Enhanced video where you can run OpenMW on the Steam Deck. For this, I wanted to check this one out because the commenter there said that maybe that Morrowind on Xemu would run well because it has better controller support, since the game's obviously made for a console. And from the compatibility I saw on this game, it was rated as supported. Now we can see that there's a flickering white box around the image there. I can't say if that's on the handheld because I haven't looked at it, but once again, we got these black boxes on the side. On the handheld, those don't pop up. We're just going to go ahead and go with Player 0, but definitely a much more controller-friendly UI than you see on the PC. Once again, we're hitting that 60 FPS mark, but things don't feel like they're a smooth 60 FPS. Even the frame time graph looks pretty good right there. It looks jittery, but feels rather inconsistent on my end. And we have inverted thumbsticks here for the the vertical axis, and that is gonna mess me up because I really am not a fan of that, but we'll go ahead and test it out here for a while. There might be under options, let's see if I can change that. Okay, there we go. Now I can make do. So in the smaller areas, it's doing okay inside this little boat, but I'm curious once we get out to a bigger area like the city, how things are going to go. Playing this game as a kid, though, was pretty wild for me. I didn't really know what was going on. I kind of just ran around. Can definitely see where the water tiles here, so I don't remember it being that way on the original Xbox, so that might just be a side effect of the emulator. As a kid, I didn't really stick to the story or anything. I kind of just wandered around and got completely lost. We'll just go with a Dark Elf, be a native of the land. Performance is pretty inconsistent here, jumping all around. So if that commenter is watching this video now, I can say that you should definitely just play the OpenMW version of Morrowind on the Steam Deck instead of running it through this emulator. Maybe if you can lock this down to like 40 FPS consistently without getting a slowdown in the emulation, but with OpenMW you can add mods to it and everything, and the performance is a lot better than you're going to see here. Alright, so now we're out and you can actually run around. The controller mapping is pretty nice compared to the PC version where, you know, everything's explicitly told here and things just tend to work a little bit better. But, oh man, I can delete spells. Oh, I was pressing left bumper instead of left trigger because I was just used to that. Alright, we're just going to go get lost and try to fight some creatures here and see how things go. But talking to people, the interface is definitely different than the PC version. Things are pretty large here, I think, in comparison to how they were on the OpenMW one from what I saw looking at it here. But if I remember, if I kind of go this way and out that way, there's a person that just falls out of the sky. And I always thought that was pretty funny. Let's see if we can fry some mud. We'll see if we can fry some mud crabs up here with our spells. Graphically, the fog is really close to the camera, so it's kind of hard to see out into the distance compared to, you know, more modern open world games, but it's pretty crazy for what this game did during the time. I think I might want to go that way, and I don't think that this game has a sprint function. But I haven't noticed any major graphical glitches or anything here, just not the best performance for this one. Alright, I'm getting eaten alive here. This is the person fall right here. Oh, there they are. Well, I'll take that sword, and why not everything? It's always a funny one. Alright, let's see. Alright, let's see if we can find something with our new sword here. Stamina regeneration is really slow in this game. Did not remember that. And for those of you that don't know how this goes, every time I'm swinging at this rat here, there's a check being made. So basically it's rolling dice like D&D and checking to see if I actually will make a hit on my attack. So it's a lot different than Oblivion and Skyrim, where if you hit something, you just hit it. But here it's a lot more like a classic RPG where dice rolls are happening in the background that you can't see. And, you know, if you actually make a hit, then it'll happen. Otherwise, nothing will happen at all. So overall, this one's pretty decent on here. Got a little loading thing there. I don't think that happens on the PC one with OpenMW, so I would really recommend just going with OpenMW if you want to play Morrowind on the Steam Deck instead, but it's nice to revisit the original Xbox version and see how it runs here. Alright, now we have Ninja Gaiden Black. I think this one is ranked as playable too. Now, I never played Ninja Gaiden Black. I have it on my Xbox Series X and dabbled with it there, but growing up, I didn't play this one. The first Ninja Gaiden game I really played was Ninja Gaiden 2 on the 360, and I really liked that game. But this one, my ski instructor actually talked about it a bunch, because me and him talked about Halo a lot, and he said that he liked Ninja Gaiden a lot too, and that this game was really hard. But I never went back and played this one until recently. And I don't know if there's supposed to be images on screen right now. I assume that there's not. Actually, at this point, I feel like there is supposed to be things on screen that I see, because it's talking about the Dragon Sword, and obviously there's nothing on the screen right now, just black. So I'm going to assume that this one's not optimal either for the compatibility here on the emulator. So we're loading to the game right now after that first cutscene where we couldn't see anything, and this loading screen's been taking a while. I don't know how long it took on the original Xbox, but this text has scrolled all the way through and then back over, so the load time on this one's pretty severe. Alright, luckily the actual gameplay does show up, so we'll see how the performance is. Alright, so pretty good 60 FPS wise. We are getting some random stutters here and there, but when we are hitting 60, it actually feels pretty good in this one. Yeah, so I don't remember how many of these games ran at 60 FPS on the original Xbox and how many of them ran at 30 FPS. but they're running pretty good here for this one. Also, I don't have experience with this game really that much, so going through this is going to be a little bit longer because I don't know exactly where to run. But it seems like a lot of the platforming that I know from Ninja Gaiden 2 is intact here. So yeah, the creators of Ninja Gaiden, I think it's Team Ninja, they haven't made a good Ninja Gaiden game in a while from what I know. Obviously we had those ports of Ninja Gaiden Black and 2, but it takes from the Sigma version, and I've heard people say that the Sigma version is actually inferior, despite them having some more content. There's things like censorship, so that's a bit unfortunate. I never played those, and I heard the ports were really bare bones, so... then obviously there's games like Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge. I think that was just on the Wii U, and then I think there was like Wybia Ninja Gaiden Z or something, like some zombie Ninja Gaiden game, but I always thought these games were pretty iconic, so I'd really like to see the franchise get some new blood in it now that the developers have had time to work on things like Neo and that new Final Fantasy game that is Strangers of Paradise, and I've heard mixed things about that one. I'm a Souls fan, but I don't know if I want to check that game out too much. So the opening I played on the one on the Series X was a bit different from this, so I'm wondering if I played a different version of the Ninja Gaiden here. I don't know if Black is like a upgraded version of the original Ninja Gaiden for Xbox, because I'm pretty sure there's also just Ninja Gaiden for Xbox, not Ninja Gaiden Black. And I don't know how close these are to the 2D platformer ones that are on older consoles. Like, does the other ones focus on Ryu also? I don't know if the characters are the same and if the general story is the same, but I'm pretty sure that this one's more over the top. I also think this game is exclusive to the Xbox. I don't remember it going to other platforms besides the Sigma versions, which, you know, would come out later. Like Ninja Gaiden 2 would come out on the 360 initially, and then Ninja Gaiden Sigma came out to the PS3 later on. But Ninja Gaiden 2 has this really cool dismemberment systems for enemies where you can cut off their limbs, and they'll still fight most of the time. Depending on what you cut off on them, they'll act differently. So I don't know if this one's that interactive, but still has good combat here. Performance-wise, this one's running pretty good compared to some of the other games we've played today. Hitting 60 FPS more often, and the 60 FPS here feels better generally than it does in the other games that we've played. So one thing about a lot of the action games from this time is that they're fixed camera angle, or the cameras are not as good as I would say a lot of games are today. I recently have been going back and playing the older Devil May Cry games because I've never played them, and I definitely prefer the updated camera system compared to how it is in, say, DMC 1. During some of this combat, though, it really does slow down, and that makes the inputs harder to do responsively, so that is pretty unfortunate. Definitely feels a bit sluggish. And I don't know how this one performed on the original Xbox since I never played it on there, but hopefully it felt better than this. Alright, here we're playing Alien vs. Predator's Extinction. This is a strategy game that was on the Xbox and is actually on the PS2 also. I rented it from Blockbuster with my sister a couple times, and I really enjoyed this one. We'll go ahead and go with the Alien campaign. But this one's pretty unique for an Alien vs. Predator game. We were kind of into AVP at the time. I did not look at the tutorial here, so we're just going to kind of wing it and see what the performance is like. And the interesting thing about this game is that this is the only game that we're playing today where the rating is perfect. And so far, it definitely feels really good compared to some of the other games that we've checked out. The 60 FPS feels pretty solid, and we're going over some terrain here that I didn't think that we'd really be able to go over. But yeah, AVP during that time, for some reason, me and a bunch of my friends, we were like young teenagers. We thought it was a pretty cool movie, and I hadn't even seen the original Alien or Predator movies, but my dad showed me them later on because those movies are way better than Alien versus Predator. But that movie was pretty fun for its time, and I think it was kind of popular with everything going on here. So let's see if I can figure out how to hatch these eggs. One of the most influential games for me growing up was StarCraft 2, and I kind of feel like I'm playing Zerg right now with the eggs here, and kind of like a spawning pool looking thing, but there's no creep, and I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm gonna go ahead and jump back into the tutorial actually because I don't know what's going on. Here we'll go for the alien tutorial. Even here, it kind of looks like they have a creep variant around the area. Okay, the black button. There we go. Oh, so we've got a face hugger. Yeah, performance-wise, this one, I believe they're perfect rating because it feels the best so far out of any game we've played today. So those games that do have that rating on the Xemu website, believe it because they feel pretty good here. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of games. A lot of them are in the playable state. RTS games are always kind of interesting on consoles because they're so clearly best played on PC, but you have things like Halo Wars and this that they got to make do somehow. You're right. Okay, with it. Okay, here we go. Is a big face hugger going to come out of this one? Okay. Praetorian face hugger. Hopefully we get a queen or something from this. Trying to think about other RTS games that were on console. Mostly Halo Wars is the one I can think about. I think there were some other ones that were translated over, but it's kind of unfortunate. The RTS genre kind of feels like it's dying now compared to how it used to be back in the heyday of the original StarCraft and Warcraft 3 and stuff. Now we kind of have more MOBAs that are more popular, but I think even a lot of the upcoming generation and younger people don't play MOBAs as much as first-person shooters and things like that. The controls here are pretty interesting as far as all these trigger holds and black and white buttons. I'm surprised that when I was a kid, going through the tutorial and everything, I was able to keep up with it, but I probably didn't really know what I was doing back then either. But this is a pretty interesting image that we have here on the screen right now. It would be nice for games like this if they had some more elements on the screen UI-wise where you can actually see what's going on. It's like kind of an Assassin's Creed, they tell you a lot of the buttons you can press to interact with the game. So overall, Xemu runs pretty good on the Steam Deck. I did do a ton of investigation to see if we actually can lock the frame rate down lower and have the emulator not slow down, but if we can do that, it'd be a way better experience. Now, for game compatibility, games that are rated as perfect definitely do run better in my experience based off the one game we checked out, Alien vs. Predators, and the other games tended to run in varying ways. You know, things like Halo 2 had some pretty bad problems. Halo 1 ran quite a bit better than it, but they're both rated as playable, whereas things like Mech Assault 2, Lone Wolf just won't really run at all. So that's about it for today. Thanks for checking out the video. I really love the original Xbox console, and I have a ton of nostalgia for it, so this was a trip down memory lane for me. If you want to see more videos, check out my channel and consider subscribing. There's a ton of Steam Deck and gaming content over there. Have a good one.